What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you about Polestar. It did go on a little bit more of a sell-off today. So I want to talk on what caused and prompted that sell-off and where it might be going, what the data is all telling us at this stage in the game. Before I get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. It's always greatly appreciated. And with that, let's get right to it. So as you can see, today we went down 13.88%. So like I said, a little bit more of a sell-off, a nice big red candle right here. And in case you guys do not know, there's a lot of protests going on in China because of various lockdowns and things like that. So again, it really spooks the broader market, anything related to China. And depending on how much this does escalate, that could potentially start hurting the broader market as well. So that's something to continue to monitor. But as of right now, it is affecting Polestar because of it being manufactured in China, or at least the Polestar 2 is. But typically though, at least based on my experience, when there's these types of news and the big sell-offs that do occur, they're very short-lived. So next week, people are going to forget all about this. Like I said, unless this does develop into something greater, there's a good likelihood that people are just going to forget about all this and we'll be able to trend higher. But I did do a video on Polestar last week or within a week or so, and I actually touched on the technicals. And I said that is one point that you really need to watch for. So I'm just going to do some technical analysis quickly. On the actual chart, I have the 50, 100, 200 moving averages, Bollinger Band, RSI, stochastic, and momentum. And so based on the previous video, I did bring up stochastic. So as of right now, it did reach a high of around 96, which in reality is very much overbought. And in some cases, that's very much justified, especially if you do have good earnings, analyst ratings, and various other things, then yeah, you go up very fast. And a lot of these indicators can't really handle a lot of that momentum behind the scenes. So this is where it does show tentatively a little bit more overbought. But keep in mind, when you do have that upward momentum, when that does convert to a negative, such as the news that just came out, then yeah, you go down equally as hard. So that's typically what does happen. RSI is also at 61. So similar situation to the stochastic. It kind of was very high, needed to go down a little bit. Momentum number retail investors were down a little bit today, but by no means nothing out of the norm. On the actual chart though, we did break below the 100-day moving average, but still it's just the 100-day moving average. It's a pretty good indicator for support, but other than that, the main one to watch for is the 50, still higher percentile of the Bollinger Band. So at the end of the day, around the $6 range is kind of a good support level or transition point. So as long as we can stay above that in the next couple of days, we should still be fundamentally good. Keep in mind, these kind of sell-offs, I know it does suck, but it is still very much healthy in the grand scheme of things, because typically it does get out a lot of those short-term paper hand investors. So it gets those out and keeps the long-term investors normally, at least. So again, it's very good in the grand scheme of things. And keep in mind, you go through cycles. As long as the low on this cycle that we're going through right now isn't any lower than the previous cycle, then hypothetically it is still an upward trend. So that's kind of things that you need to watch for behind the scenes. When it comes down to the data, there's a lot of good indicators that people could use. I like to use what big money is doing, what the big transactions occurred, both on the dark pool and on the secondary market. So on the secondary market, you do have 4 big transactions that did occur today, all fairly in the norm. So nothing really abnormal in that regard, although we did have significantly higher volume today. So that might be a little bit more of a good takeaway potentially. Also, just want to give you a breakdown. This is the dark pool transactions. So again, similar to what it normally is, it's kind of within the norm. Nothing abnormal, no major $1 million+ purchases or anything like that. So that, like I said, is pretty normal. And so moving on from here though, I just want to talk on shorts. And because typically when there's a lot of fear or any bad news, shorts like to pounce, especially I think that's the thing to do for 2022. And short score right now is 82. The higher the number, the higher the likelihood of a squeeze happening. Utilization is 98.43. Live short interest. So as of right now, they did increase their position 783,000 shares today. So in the grand scheme of things, not too bad. Short interest right now is 8.57. But looking at the cost to borrow, it is 325.55%. So that is extremely high. So potentially, I know on paper, we don't have everything that could have a squeeze, because typically for a squeeze, you need ultimately a high utilization, which which I guess 98 is fairly high, but typically you want 100 at least. But you need a high utilization, you need a high cost to borrow, which technically Polestar does have, and you need a lot of shares being shorted. And technically only 9.43 million shares are being shorted. Technically that's a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it's only 8 or 9% of the free float. So in the grand scheme of things, on paper, we potentially don't have what it takes to have a squeeze, but you never know, right? Anything could happen. At the end of the day, I personally feel that we could drop a little bit more, and this is largely just based on the technicals alone. And that's also factoring in that this whole situation about China doesn't escalate anymore. Assuming it stays how it is and there might be 1 or 2 additional protests or whatever it might be, and it just kind of dwindles out potentially, then yeah, in reality, I think the technicals might bring us down a little bit more, but fundamentally, I think Polestar proved based on their latest earnings that they are a very big force to be reckoned with. So that's my own opinion. Keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own due diligence at the end of the day. But with all that, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Greatly appreciated. Let me know your thoughts as well on Polestar in the comments below. I always greatly appreciate that. And if I am wrong or if I'm missing any points as well, definitely let me know in the comments. And over and above that, if you do like my channel, want to support the growth, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below, or just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. With that said, let's all make a lot of money on Polestar.